Right. You can anticipate and practice questions that you might receive from an interviewer. You can also be responsive and you can ask your interviewer questions, but these should not be inane, silly questions. They should be questions that reveal your intention and your desire to actively be a part of the company. Okay. Now, then we went on to discuss some things, a few methods like the present, past, future method and the stars method. There are set categories of questions that we can anticipate from an interviewer, such as the classic HR questions, which might look innocent but which can be very revealing of you as a person. When you attempt to answer a classic HR question, you can use the present, past, future formula. You start from the present, then you go into the past and you recount what were the events or what were the experiences that allowed you to gain the kind of skills that allow you to operate in your present role. You can also tell them if you have made any significant achievements recently in your present job profile, and then you can move on to the future and envision yourself as a candidate who can meaningfully contribute to this prospective company. Right. You can also get questions such as questions which place you or assess your behavior in a specific context. So you locate yourself in a particular situation. You tell them what the task that you needed to accomplish in that certain situation was. How did you go about accomplishing that task? What results did you achieve? And what were your takeaways from this particular experience? What skills did you acquire? Oftentimes, behavioral questions can involve unpleasant experiences that you've had in your past, such as some unsavory workplace experience that should not derail you. You should be able to maintain your composure in that particular situation, and you should construct your answer in such a manner that you have something positive to gain out of it, that you learned something from it, and it is going to help you operate better as an employee thereafter. Okay? This is what we had covered in our last class. Now we go on to the rest of the session. There are some general tips that we can follow when we are trying to answer an interviewer's question. Do not make baseless statements. It is always better to illustrate any statement that you make by using specific examples from your life. You should ensure that your answers stay on topic. Do not diverge from your focus. You should ensure that they are concise, they're clear and concise. Concise simply means that it should not be very long winded, it shouldn't be too drawn out. If you do that, then you lose the attention of your audience. The shorter your answer, the better it will be from the point of view of an interview. Whatever method you attempt or you follow when you answer the questions, make sure that you have a conclusion in place. Do not give a random rant or a narrative that does not seem to end anywhere. Okay? When you cite an example or when you try to describe a particular experience that you have had, make sure that you include some sort of a takeaway from it, an outcome that you produced. Maybe it could be a result that you had of the task. It could also be something that you learned from the situation. You need to ensure that the things that you say resonate with your employer. Like we discussed yesterday, your employer is looking to fill a specific need within the company. The things that you say should demonstrate that you are a candidate who is capable of filling that particular need. That is how you become indispensable to that job description, to that company. Okay? So, whatever you say, mold it or rather craft it such that you will appear as a useful employee to be hired to this specific position. Okay, that is what it means to make your answers resonate with your employer. This is a short activity. I want you to go through the content on the slide and then take a few minutes to yourself. And the answer that you're trying to give is to the question, tell me about yourself. When you have such a slide in front of you, which tells you that you have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from a technical institute in India, you've also undergone a research internship in Denmark. You worked for 2 years after your bachelor's at a company as a software developer. Now you're looking to shift. You're shifting your area of focus. You are looking to get into core data science. And as this particular candidate, you need to answer the question of tell me about yourself. Make sure that you um, personalize the information that you find on the screen to fit your own profile. For example, instead of saying a technical institute in India, give me the name of the institution. Let's say IIT Madras. I have a BTech in electrical engineering from IIT Madras. I graduated in the year so and so, whichever year would work. You pursued a research internship in Denmark. That is also a very generic statement. You pursued a research internship from where in Denmark? It could be a university, it could be a research and development company. Whatever it is, it could be a made up name. For the purposes of this particular interaction, it could be a made up name. But whatever it is, give me specific information concerning that research internship and that institution. Then you worked for 2 years as a software developer. Where did you work? What was your job like? Now you tell me that you're trying to get into core data science. What is prompting you to shift your allegiance from software development to core data science? Why do you think you will be a very good data scientist, for instance? Okay? Create a narrative, build a story. Like you have these build a bear shops. This is a build a story slide. Build me a story about yourself and try to tell me why it is that you are an ideal candidate for this job. I want you to take a few minutes to yourself, come up with a story of your own, and then try to tell me that story. Is that clear to everybody? Is that clear to everybody? Somebody
Yes, ma'am.
respond. It is clear. Okay. Thank you, Gaurav. Please take a few minutes to yourself. Go through the slide. Give me specific information. If you have attempted to do any kind of internship so far, if you have some sort of research interest, then make sure that you suture that interest into your answer so that it appears as if you're not talking about a random person on a slide, rather, you're talking about yourself. You need to understand that there'll be a bunch of people with similar profiles, and you need to stand out amongst all of these people. Okay? Right. Take some time, draft your answer, give me the answer. I'll stop talking now. No, this class is not ended. You have a small activity. I'm just waiting for you to draft your answers. This class has only begun. Okay. Maithili, can you attempt to give me an answer? Are you here, Maithili J? Even if there are mistakes or if you feel like your answer is imperfect, that is completely fine. I am not going to crucify you for it. I will only take the good things from your answer. Try to build confidence. Don't try to say something. Mic problem. Okay, that's okay. Pragati, can you try giving me an answer? Can you attempt, maybe, if you're here? Subrat Tiwari,
Yes, ma'am.
could you try attempting an answer?
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, yeah, we have to use these given points only, right? To tell
You
the.
have to ensure that you use the given points, but you also need to add personally specific information to it. For example, from what technical institute in India, from what institution in Denmark did you do a research internship, things like that. If you don't know the name of any institute in Denmark, that is okay, you can just make up a name for now.
Oh, okay, ma'am. Um, so, um, hello everyone.
Can
My
you?
name is Subrat Tiwari. I completed my bachelor's in electrical engineering from the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology at Madras. And after completing my degree, I pursued a research internship from in an institute from a company called Copenhagen, a research institute in Denmark, where I pursued an internship, and there I worked for some time, and it was while working there that I developed an interest in data science, and that is why I'm here and looking into get into the core of the field. Thank you.
That was a very good uh, answer for starters. Now, there are a couple of things that I would like for you to include into a presentation like this. I'm just going
Okay,
to
ma'am.
state this. So, Brad, you do not have to restate your answer or anything. It's fine. I'm just trying to
Okay.
tell you what else I would like to have heard in this answer. Where did you work for 2 years, for instance? What was the job like? Like, what position was it? How many members were there in your team? What were your projects like? What is it that made you suddenly feel like you needed to shift into data science? Most importantly, what makes you think you're going to be any good at being a data scientist? Now, you have bare bones information, you add a lot of personal details to it, you add your own narrative to it, and that is how you build an answer. Okay? Do not think that the bulleted points on a slide or in your resume are going to become an answer in themselves. No, you will have to build an answer out of these points. That is the only point that I wanted to get across, and I hope that is clear. Subrat, thank you very much for offering that answer. It was very helpful.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, most often, when we make a job application, we need our resume or our CV. A resume tends to be slightly shorter than a CV, but they are mostly the same. Usually, when you are applying for a research position, they ask for a CV and not a resume. But if you are looking to be hired into a company, then they most often ask for a resume. They are structured in slightly different ways, but they are essentially the same thing, right? Along with your resume or your CV, you also add a cover letter, a letter that essentially covers your resume is something that is called a cover letter. It covers it in the sense that it gives a broad introduction into who you are, why you are applying, and why your application should matter. Why should it be considered a serious endeavor in itself, right? Why should an employer attach any sort of value to this? Now, all the things that a resume will not tell for you need to be incorporated into your cover letter. A resume cannot be personal. A cover letter, on the other hand, has to be personal because a letter is always a personal thing, okay? Wherever a resume fails to be personal, that is covered by, that is bridged by a cover letter. Okay. What is the format of a cover letter? It follows the same format as a formal letter. It will have a heading. A heading is called the subject of the letter. It should have a heading. Usually, it also has the address of the person to whom you are writing, the address of the person who is writing the letter, the date, the address of the person to whom you are writing. Then you have the subject. Then you have the salutation, which is dear sir, or if you are writing to somebody whose last name you are aware of. For example, if I'm writing to Subrat, I might write dear Mr. Tiwari. That is an acceptable way of addressing. Okay. If I am writing to Tanishka, I could write dear Miss Mithil. If you know the last name of the person to whom you are writing the letter, then you can address them by their last name in a very formal manner. Do not address them by their first names. No. Okay? Either that or you write respected sir or respected ma'am. Both of these work. Then you introduce yourself. What position are you applying for? Where did you find this job posting? And who are you? I mean, why should you be making this application in the first place? Then you go on to the next paragraph. Ideally, a letter will have three separate paragraphs, but none of them will be bulky. You do not write three very wordy paragraphs. You write short paragraphs which are very concise but which also give the necessary information. In the next paragraph, which is the body of the letter, which is the second paragraph in the body of the letter, you tell, or rather, you detail how you can be a good fit for this particular job. Now, it should not be a rehashing of all the things that are there in your resume. Your resume does list your qualifications, but there are things that your resume will not list. Okay? And these include specific skills that you have garnered through your education or through the course of your career. These need to be specific. These skills should be your own. They should not be random, common, generic statements. Whatever skills you claim to have in your cover letter, you should be able to substantiate them by referring back to the experience that you have cited in your resume. For example, if you say you have problem solving skills, you should be able to cite at least one example of a real life instance where you have solved problems. Okay? If you say you have critical thinking abilities, all of these are generic statements. You should be able to refer back to your resume and bring out an instance where your critical thinking has aided you in achieving a certain goal. Okay? There are reasons specific to each individual which might make them interested in a particular job. And these will always be with reference to your own goals as an individual. What do you want to do in life? What is it that you seek to gain from this particular job? You will have goals which must align with the values or the objectives that a company has for itself. I can give you a certain example. For example, if you are applying for a research position, I'm giving you examples that are immediately familiar to me. Again, think of these in terms of what it might be for a data scientist. Okay, the examples that I give might be relevant to my life, but these might not be the exact same for you. However, these are effective examples in as much as they communicate to you how it is that these instances are played out in the scope of an interview. Okay, when you're applying for a research position, all institutes have specific areas of expertise. In literature specifically, there are institutes which specialize in certain kinds of literature, certain kinds of performance. Now, you need to demonstrate your own interest in that specific field, and you should be able to convey to the person who is interviewing you that your own goals, your own career goals, are to conduct further research in this particular area. So, there might be resources that only this institute can offer to you. For example, a reading group, a certain critical studies group that this institute might have. And if that is a specific resource, a certain library resource, for example, if that is something that is offered to you that you can have access to, if and only if you are a part of this institution, then that gives your application that much more gravity, importance. Okay, they understand that you are an applicant who's genuinely interested in their core area, and so you will be a valuable asset to them. Likewise, you should be able to demonstrate that your own goals align with the company's goals. Your own area of interest aligns with the company's area of interest. There might be specific projects that the company is undertaking at the moment which fascinate you for some specific reason. Don't just write, I am fascinated by this specific project. No, tell the reason why you are fascinated by that specific project. If you are fascinated by something, then you should obviously also be able to contribute in a significant manner to that project. In what way will you be able to contribute significantly to that particular project? These are things that come within the body of the cover letter. Then you conclude by saying, I expect to hear back from you. I expect a favorable reply from you. Thank you very much. And then you sign off. Signing off is called a complimentary close. This is where you write yours sincerely, comma, your name, your designation, etc. You need to give that in a formal letter. In a cover letter, do not skip the complimentary close or the signing off part. Okay. This is an example, a general example of a cover letter. I wouldn't say that this is the ideal cover letter because everywhere you see that formats differ. Formats differ, specific thrust areas within the body of the letter might differ. Whenever you are writing a cover letter, just have a format in mind and then make sure that you supply information that is relevant to you as an individual applicant in order to build the letter. Don't take lines from a model letter. That would not work. You need to ensure that your cover letter is crafted for you specifically. Okay? It addresses your experiences and your skills that is necessary for an application. You can ask questions to your interviewers. What sort of questions can you ask an interviewer? You shouldn't ask silly questions. Don't just ask them, how much of money will I be paid? That will come up, but you should allow your interviewer to bring that up. You shouldn't be the kind of person who appears too desperate. Okay? You could ask things like, what would a typical day for someone in my role look like? Now, there is something else that I want to convey to you. As an applicant, there are things that you bring to the table. Okay? It is very important that you have something significant to bring to the table, skill wise, educational achievement wise. Do not just complete a mediocre degree, complete an excellent degree. Make sure that your credentials are just, magnificent, so that when you take yourself to an interview, in front of an interview panel, you will be able to leverage yourself in such a manner that you can also pose questions to your interviewer. That is necessary. Sometimes you might feel so much at a disadvantage that you will not have the power to pose a question. Make sure that you have the skills in place, you have the necessary credentials in place, such that you will be able to address questions to your interviewer as well. What would a typical day for someone in my role look like? How many employees work in this department? What opportunities would I have for cross departmental progression? What is the most rewarding aspect of my job here? What are the opportunities for my career progression 2 years hence? Now, there are a few things that you are trying to ascertain for yourself through these questions. You want to ensure that you don't end up in a stultifying job which does not offer you any prospect of advancing in your career. So, as far as an employer is concerned, it is necessary that they allow you opportunities for progression in your career so that they can have the best brains in the industry working for them. If you feel that you are working in a very constricted atmosphere, then you have every incentive to leave that place. Okay? So it is up to the employer to ensure that you have sufficient opportunities for advancement in place. That is why you can ask questions like, what are my prospects of cross departmental progression? What is cross departmental progression? You might start off in a particular job profile, but the more you work, you might realize that you're really good at something else. Okay, this happens a lot with students of technology. They start somewhere, and then gradually they realize that their interests, or rather their specific skill sets, are suited to something else, and then they aspire to make uh, a departmental jump, maybe, or a leap across departments. Okay, you need to ensure that this particular kind of growth is considered positive by the company that hires you. If for some reason your company thinks that this kind of growth is detrimental to their interests, then you need to make sure that you find yourself a better employer. These are things that allow you to eliminate unwelcome offers. If you get several offer letters, then you should be able to choose the right employer on the basis of the correct parameters. And these are the ways in which we identify right parameters of growth for ourselves as employees. Okay? By asking a question like, what might be the most rewarding aspect of my job here, you also communicate to them that you are not in this job, in this interview for just the money. You want to ensure that what you do in life ends up as a meaningful endeavor. You want to construct meaning out of your life. You're not compromising on that. Okay? Now, I want to ask you to give me at least one other question, one other meaningful question that you will be able to pose to your prospective employer. Think for a few seconds. Tell me what are the questions you might be able to ask to somebody who's interviewing you. Think about it. Give me at least one other question. It should not be an inane question. You should not come across as somebody who is here for the salary. Make sure that you're
How to
asking
go about
thoughtful questions.
asking for flexible working hours?
Flexible working hours. I don't think that is something that you can ask. because each company has a policy regarding the kind of working hours it would have. For example, a conventional company would not allow a great deal of work from home opportunities. But if you are working with a rather uh, a new startup, for instance, they would allow a great deal of work from home opportunities. That is because their policy regarding work is essentially different, right? So, what do you mean by way of flexible working hours? Is this what you mean, or do you mean something else?
This is exactly what I wanted to ask.
Okay, so that depends on the kind of company that you are appearing for an interview, right? In front of which you are appearing for an interview. Just a second,
Yeah.
Rishi and Soumya brother. I will ask you. I will give you an opportunity to answer. Let me just clarify this particular question. And within the company's policies, you can negotiate. What are the things that you would like to do? What are the ways in which that you would be able to best contribute to the company, right? Now, there are things that you can ask and you can't ask. If you are going into a very conventional sort of a work environment, there are most definitely things that you will not be granted. Okay? So be clear about doing a bit of research about your company can help you identify what are the things that you will be able to ask, might be able to broach with your interviewer, might not be able to broach with your interviewer. Okay? A lot of company research can be very helpful in this regard. Talking to others from your team or from your department that can be helpful in this regard. Again, asking them questions, ask an open ended question. What are the kind of working hour flexibilities that are offered by your company? Ask an open ended question rather than something that is suited to your own interests. Okay? Ask them, do you allow for this? Okay, that can be a very good way of approaching this. Is that clear now?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, I hope that is clear, right? Is that clear?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, okay. Soumya brother, would you like to start off? Soumya brother? Okay. Rishi, would you like to ask something? Say something?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Okay. You are audible. Go on.
Basically, ma'am, I have two questions for my interviewer. So the first would be that will my working hours will differ once I complete my probation period, and the second question would be that what would be the daily task I would be needing to perform on regular basis until and unless I'm in my probation period.
What was the second question? What would be the daily tasks that you would be required to perform
In my
when you are
probation
in your
period,
probation period
training
or
period.
after your probation period?
No, 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 training period.
When you
In
are in
my
your
training
probation
period.
period. Okay. Don't phrase it like until and unless you are in your probation period. Just say when you are in your probation period. Okay.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay. Those are both very good questions. Okay. Shivaraman also has offered a question. Just a second, Shivaraman, I'll get to your question. Rishi, those are both very good questions. And when you ask these questions, make sure that you phrase the questions politely. Okay. Don't come across as crass or rude. Make sure that you ask them in a very polite manner. Very
Sure,
good
ma'am.
questions. Shivaraman, you had also offered a question. Sumit, just a second, Sumit. What kind of assistance will I get in terms of work life balance? What kind of assistance do you require, Shivaraman? Tell me more. You can either type in the chat box or you can answer, whichever you prefer. Sumit, you wanted to say something?
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to ask a question
Go on.
about the questions we can ask to our interviewer.
Yes.
And one question we can ask that what are the qualities that he or she might be looking us in the next few months or the working period?
What qualities do they expect of you in the next few months?
Yes, ma'am.
That's not a bad question at all, but you might want to be more specific about it. Okay? Because it's just a
Yes, ma'am.
very general question. In what way, in terms of work, in terms of tasks, like one of the questions that Rishi pointed out, what tasks might they want you to accomplish in the probation period, that is related to this question. So maybe you could
Yes.
combine them both and then ask them what kind of qualities would you require from an employee so as to fulfill such and such a task,
Sure, ma'am.
to make it very specific rather than just place it there as a general question.
Yes, ma'am.
Shivaraman just wants to have less mental stress. That is very understandable. But an employer might not always be very understanding about it. So you could maybe phrase it differently. What is the team that, I mean, you could ask questions about the team in which you will be working. How many members are there in the team? Okay. And within the team, what is your role? What are the things that you will be expected to do in that team? What are the working hours like? And yes, Subrat, just a second. What are the working hours like? And in what way will your team leader, for instance, be offering you support so as to accomplish a certain task? These are all different ways of phrasing the same question. It's just that when we ask a question, we do not want to come across as being rude. We do not want to phrase it such that it might seem a bit offensive. We always want to phrase our questions in a way that we are reflected in a positive light. Think of yourself first, okay? And so you can ask a bunch of different questions which will allow you to understand what the team is like, what the work environment is like, and then you'll get an answer. You'll get an answer to the question of what kind of assistance you will have from others who work alongside you, what kind of assistance you will have in terms of work-life balance. Okay. For example, if you return home after a very long day and at 11:30 in the night you get assigned a new task, that's not the best of working environments, right? So there are other ways in which you can ask questions so as to know whether this is the kind of environment in which you are expected to operate. Ask questions, ask a bunch of questions, and get the answers that you want to get. I hope that is clear, Shivaraman. Yes, Subrat, you wanted to say something?
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to know if we can ask from the interview about about his experience, like what, like about like when he joined the company, and what was his experience when he joined, and like what was the like ask from him about the company, like what is his personal experience of working in that company. Can we ask that from the interview, and how?
You can, but it also depends upon your interviewer. For example, something that is very crucial to an interview is that you match the energy of your interviewer. If the interviewer seems to be a very sober, strict, kind of a little bit uptight sort of a person, then that might not be the best question to ask them. On the
Okay.
other hand, if the interviewer appears conversational, then you could pose the question.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Be situationally aware. That is all that I would suggest here. Okay? Situationally aware and phrase your questions politely. That's all that is required. Okay. When you are going for an interview, you can write down your answers as much as you are prepared. Will I be allowed to pursue an online education to keep myself updated with the latest technology along with my work? That is something that most companies most often insist on, Joyce. But yes, you could ask that question. You could most certainly ask that question. But they might ask you in return, what kind of online education are we talking about here, right? So it might not be easy, but you could ask the question. Yes, very good. Apart from all the preparation in terms of content that we have done for an interview, we also need to be aware of our body language and the pace of our speech. The more controlled our pace of speech is, the more controlled. Hey, you all getting clear voice of ma'am? Network problem on my side. Can you all hear me clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then I think it might be something on your end, Ramji Gupta. Okay. You will also need to pay attention to your body language and your pace of speech. Pace of speech is simply how fast you speak. Okay. If you speak in a slower pace, you will have greater control over your sentences. It's also very effective in giving yourself pauses to think, right? Sometimes you just need a little second to phrase things in your head and then you can speak. If you are speaking very fast, you'll find it very difficult to have that pause. But if you speak a little slowly, you will be able to think alongside speaking, okay? So try to speak a little slowly. Check your body language. Don't move about. Don't be fidgety. Don't fidget about. Make sure that everything on your body is working to your advantage. Be it your attire, your hands, your eye contact, everything. Make sure that all of these things work to your advantage. Sometimes, something that I've noticed is that as Indians, we tend to use our head a lot. Me, I use my hands a lot, I use my head a lot. So it's almost like I am using my entire body to communicate. But in a more western setting, for example, if you are appearing for an interview in front of somebody, a panel from the USA for instance, they would find this level of movement a bit disorienting, okay, because they are not people who are used to this kind of head bobbling. It's something that surprises them a little bit. If that is the kind of audience in front of which you are appearing, have control over your body language. Okay. Avoid habits like nail biting, hair twisting. These are all nervous habits. Is wearing a tie make an impact on the interviewer? Depends, okay? That depends. Always, it's better to show up for an interview in formal attire. That is always true. But wearing a tie is not always necessary. That also depends on the kind of interview for which you are appearing. If you feel more confident about your prospects by wearing a tie, go ahead. Wear a tie, okay? But if you feel like a tie is only going to make you uncomfortable, then skip the tie. Unless the interviewer has specified a kind of dress code, which also involves a tie, it is up to you to decide. Don't wear a tie and then mess up your own chances. Practice with a friend to make you aware of your tics. Your tics are your nervous habits. Okay, finger drumming is just going tap 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 on a surface with your fingers. Avoid such habits and minimize filler words such as and But I use a lot of I am somebody who, when I am thinking unconsciously, I just go like okay. That's not the best thing to have in communication. Ideally, you substitute these filler words with silences, okay, with thought pauses. You can take a pause for thinking. Just don't just don't ensure that it does not become filled up with these filler words like and a little bit of silence is not awkward in a conversation. Be confident about your thought process. Okay, it's the day of the interview. What should you remember? You need to match your attire to the type and style of organization. Enunciate slowly, clearly, and with adequate volume. Enunciate is how you say your words. Okay. If I say, for example, adequate volume, that's not very well enunciated. If I say adequate volume, that is well enunciated. Okay. Do not slouch. What is slouching? Slouching is going like this. Don't sit in a slouching pose. Sit straight. Look into the cameras or at all interviewers. If the interview is online, make sure that you maintain eye contact by looking into the camera. Do not avoid eye contact or dart around restlessly. Darting around is when you try to move your eyes too fast from one person to the next person to the next person to the next person. Don't do that, okay? Look at somebody, complete that sentence, slowly move your eyes to the next person. Appear composed and comfortable in your own skin. If you mess up some answer by chance, don't get stuck on it. Drop that thought and move on. This is very important. One answer is not the end of your life, okay? Even if that goes downhill, make sure to retain your composure Forget about it. Think or operate in the present at that moment, okay? Don't be weighed down by all the things that went ahead of this. Now, there are things that you need to pay attention to while you are at the interview. Do not have low energy. At the same time, do not appear hyperactive. Don't be vague about your answers, but also don't be very specific about your answers. If you feel like you are putting in details that can be omitted, that is when you are being hyper specific. You should have details, but only necessary details, things that concern your application, this particular interview. Do not add unnecessary details. Don't appear nonchalant or disinterested. At the same time, don't appear desperate. Should not be underconfident, but it shouldn't look like you are a very arrogant person either. Do not undersell yourself and do not oversell yourself. Underselling is when you underestimate yourself. When you have a really good CGPA, you have very good academic credentials, but you speak of it as if it is not very good. Don't do that. Okay? Own up that you have completed an excellent degree from an excellent institution. Okay? Do not oversell yourself. Don't claim that you have skills that you don't actually have. That can actually work to your disadvantage. Do not oversell yourself, do not undersell yourself. Sometimes, when you appear for an interview, especially as a fresher, people will try to constantly undermine your achievements. Okay? They will try to hire you for a job that is underpaid. In those instances, it is very important that you assert yourself. That doesn't mean you're overselling yourself. You are just telling them that you have skills that are worth more than what they are offering you. Do not be disheartened by an employer's attempts to undermine your skills. That can also happen in a very competitive in a very competitive industry. That can happen very often. Do not be disheartened by that. When you go into an interview, make sure that you have clarity regarding some aspects. One, you should really want this job. This should be a job that you absolutely want to do. External factors should not be what is making you, should not be what are making you uh, appear for this interview. Okay? If you feel overqualified for this particular job, it's better to not take that job, even if you are a fresher. If you feel underqualified for a job, you need to work on your skill sets. You need to ensure that you acquire more skills in order to be qualified enough for this job. If you feel like you need to make a visit to the office to know more about the place so as to decide whether or not to join the company, do it. Go to, if for example, your company is in Mumbai, you live in, let's say, Delhi, and you feel like you need to go to the company in order to ensure, in order to see, confirm whether you'll be a good fit there, make that journey. Don't hold yourself back. Once again, you go back to your non negotiables. Non negotiables are things on which you are not willing to compromise. These are things that should be very clear in your mind. What are the things that you're not willing to compromise on? For example, when Shivaraman was typing out his question, he told us very clearly that he doesn't want to be too stressed. It's a very good priority to have. He does not want to be very stressed in his work. Okay? If that is a non negotiable for you, try talking to others who are also working in that company to see whether or not this place honors that non negotiable requirement. If you feel like the place honors that requirement, then you can go ahead and take the job. But if you feel like that the company does not respect that from an employee, then that is your cue to pass the job on. Right. What did we learn in this 2 day session? One, you need to research and assess yourself and the company. You need to know yourself, your CV, and the job description inside out. You need to anticipate questions and prepare answers. That does not mean you need to memorize the answers like we discussed yesterday. It's not always the what that needs to be clear, it's the why. You need to know the clear reason as to why you are putting something in your resume, omitting something, why you're applying for this job, why you need to do something. You need to have certain skills in place before getting into this job, why you need to know, why you need to make a visit to the company in order to know whether or not they honor your requirements. The why needs to be clear. If you have the reasons clear inside your head, you can bring out answers without memorizing sentences. You can ask questions about your own role and about the company. You should be confident, you should be articulate, well spoken, and you should match the energy of the interviewers. In front of a very serious interview panel, do not make silly jokes. Okay? Do not appear flippant. That will not work in your favor. If you get multiple offers, consider your options very carefully before you make your choice. Now, I'm not going to put you into breakout rooms because we have very little time. I want you to introduce yourself to me, perhaps, in terms of three parameters. I mean, by focusing on three parameters: your academic pursuits, your hobbies, and your personality. Your academic pursuits, your hobbies, and your personality. By focusing on these three parameters, I want you to introduce yourself to me real quickly. That is the end of our presentation. We conclude with this short activity. Now, if you could take maybe 1 minute and then give me an answer for this question, I'd appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. If you have any doubts, feel free to raise those doubts as well. Introduce yourself by focusing on three parameters: academic pursuits. Oh, sorry, I shifted the slide, right? I'm sorry. Academic pursuits, hobbies, and personality. Recording of this session. Ramji, you will get a recording of this session, but I will not be the one to give you the recording. The recording of the session will be uploaded to the program's YouTube channel. If not tomorrow, then very soon. Please check the YouTube channel. You can find the recording there. The link to the YouTube channel, I think somebody said that it's available on the course calendar. It is also most certainly available in the discourse forum. You could go to either of these places, collect the link. There is somebody called Rajinikanth in the session. Yes, Rishi, go on.
Yes, ma'am. So, a very good evening, ma'am. My name is Pratham Jayal. Pratham Jayal. So, basically, I have just completed my BCom honors from MIT University, Noida, and along with my MIT that BCom
Slower,
degree.
slower. You're speaking very fast.
Okay, ma'am. Sorry. I'm
That's okay.
starting with the beginning. A very good evening,
Okay.
ma'am. My name is Pratham Jayal, and I have done my BCom honors along from MIT University, Noida, and I'm doing data science from IIT Madras alongside with my degree. So I'm really sorry, I'm getting really nervous.
It's okay. Take your time. Breathe.
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
only
Please.
speaking about yourself.
Okay, okay.
What are your hobbies? Do you have
So
any
yes,
hobbies?
my hobbies are I'm a consistent gymmer with a 6 months of time, and also I like to play badminton. So yes,
Okay.
that is my hobby.
Okay. And how
And
would you describe your personality?
Basically, ma'am, my personality traits are that I am a great team player because I believe in taking everyone along with me without leaving anyone behind. And the second trait I would say about myself is that what I commit, I perform on papers as well. So yes, I'm man of my words. I would say commitment is the
Okay,
most important thing.
understood. That is a very good answer. Thank you very much for that answer.
Yeah.
Joyce, I would like to hear from you, but we are overstepping our time limit, our allotted time, and I don't want to keep you for more than what is necessary. Could you quickly tell us what it is that you want to tell us?
No, I'm just as an introduction to the same thing.
Yeah, go on.
Yes, ma'am. I am currently studying data science from IIT Madras and doing an offline degree from Dr. AIT on computer science and engineering. As for my hobbies, I love astrophotography, I play chess and do video editing. And as part of my personality, I'm a very creative person and I love the aesthetical nature of anything what I do. And I love to
The
keep everything simple.
aesthetical nature. Aesthetical nature.
Yes, ma'am.
I
Aesthetical
don't think
nature.
it's aesthetical either. It's aesthetic nature actually. There's no need for the AL.
Yes, ma'am.
Aesthetic nature of
And I love,
everything that you do. Very good.
yeah, ma'am. Ma'am, I wanted to ask something like regarding the PPT which was showing. I was not able to access it through my calendar.
Oh, the PPT will be circulated to you. Don't worry. If you've not yet received it, you will be able to access it. Don't worry about it. It will be
Okay, ma'am.
uploaded
Thank you.
and then you will get it. Thank you, both of you, for the answers that you gave. I will not keep you for any longer. Thank you, everybody, for attending the session. I hope it was useful to you. And I hope that whatever we covered so far in these two sessions will be helpful to you later on in life when you attempt to to appear in front of an interview panel. I wish you all a pleasant evening ahead. Thank you. That is the end of the session.